Okay, so imagine seeing this. A fighter jet, fresh from recent hostilities, and it's not just flying, but it's proudly displaying symbols of claimed victories.
Yeah, like actual marks on the plane.
Exactly. We've seen this recently with Chinese-made J-10C jets appearing with these kill marks, silhouettes of other aircraft, including, get this, India's supposedly top-tier Rafale jet, painted right there, right under the cockpit.
Wow. That's a statement.
It's a powerful image, right? A very public claim of aerial triumph. But what does it really signify? I mean, is it definitive proof of combat success? Or is there maybe a larger story unfolding here?
Well, welcome everyone to the Daily Download.
Your shortcut to being well-informed on today's big stories.
I am Andra.
And I'm Ian.
And today we're going to really try and unpack the recent conflict between India and Pakistan and how it suddenly put this major spotlight on China's J-10C fighter jet.
Yeah, we'll look closely at the claims flying around about his performance and examine his pretty significant role in what's increasingly a battle fought, well, just as fiercely in the information space as it is in the actual air.
Okay, so let's set the scene a bit. We're talking about the recent escalation between India and Pakistan, which followed an attack in India-administered Kashmir. And it didn't take long for things to move beyond just ground engagements.
Right. And very quickly, the Pakistan Air Force, or PAF, started showcasing these J-10C jets with, visible kill marks. And what immediately grabbed attention were the silhouettes specifically depicting the Indian Rafale jet. It felt like a direct, really bold claim, sort of targeting India's newest and arguably most advanced fighter.
And it wasn't just Pakistan doing this, was it?
No, exactly. China's own Air Force, the People's Liberation Army Air Force, or PLAAF, they also displayed similar markings on a J-10C of theirs. Their claims were even broader, actually, suggesting multiple victories not just over Rafales, but also Indian Sukhoi Su-30MKIs, MiG-29s, and even a Heron UAV that's an unmanned aerial vehicle.
Wow, so they were really doubling down. It certainly looked like China was signaling its alignment with Pakistan's narrative.
Yeah, and using the moment to put its own military hardware front and center, it felt very deliberate,
Definitely. Now, India's official response sort of added another layer to this whole thing. The Chief of Defense Staff, General Anil Chauhan, did later acknowledge that India sustained some, unspecified aerial losses during the conflict.
Okay, so an admission of some losses.
Right, but he directly refuted Pakistan's specific claim of shooting down 6 Indian jets. He basically said that number was simply incorrect.
It does bring back memories of the 2019 skirmishes between them, where verifying claims was just incredibly difficult.
Yeah, that was messy.
I remember the Indian MiG-21 being shot down, its pilot captured. And at the same time, India claimed to have downed a Pakistani F-16. But that claim, many sources, including U.S. officials and independent analysts who really looked at the evidence, widely reported it as having been debunked later.
And tragically, there was also that friendly fire incident back in 2019 where an Indian Mi-17 helicopter was actually shot down by its own forces.
Oh, right. I remember that.
These past events just kind of highlight how quickly information gets contested during a conflict and, how challenging it is to get a clear, really unbiased picture of what actually happened up there in the sky.
Absolutely. So, okay, with all these competing claims flying around, let's talk about the jet that's really at the center of it all. The J-10C. It's often nicknamed the Vigorous Dragon.
It's really China's flagship indigenous 4.5th generation multirole fighter. If you're looking for a comparison, people often put it sort of in the same class as the American F-16.
And there's been quite a bit of discussion about its origins, hasn't there? I seem to recall reading about allegations it was influenced by that Israeli Lavi fighter project from, the 1980s?
That's right. There are these controversial allegations that the J-10's design drew heavily on the canceled Israeli Lavi. People point to similarities like the canard delta wing layout.
Okay, canard delta, what's that exactly?
It's a design with small control wings called canards near the front, and then a large triangular delta wing at the back. So that layout, it's single engine configuration and the ventral inlet where the engine intake is positioned underneath the fuselage.
Gotcha.
Now, both China and Israel officially deny these links, but, analyses of the design certainly highlight some striking similarities. The J-10 is larger, though. That's partly because it was designed around different engines, like the Russian AL-31F or China's own WS-10 Taihang engine.
Okay, so setting aside the history for a moment, what makes the J-10C notable as a modern fighter jet? What are its key features?
Well, it's designed for all-weather operations, and it has strong performance, especially at medium and low altitudes. It's a single-engine, single-seat jet. It also incorporates some features aimed at reducing its radar signature.
So, like stealth?
Not full stealth, no, but enhancements. Things like a diverterless supersonic inlet or DSI.
DSI.
Yeah, it's a newer intake design that helps sort of mask the engine fan from radar. And it also has a special canopy and an angled radar antenna, all contributing to a lower radar cross-section.
Okay, and its brain, I guess it's avionics. That's got to be key too, right?
Oh, crucially. It's equipped with an active electronically scanned array radar.
ESO radar.
ESA, I've heard that term. How does that differ from older radars?
Okay, think of an older radar like a single, powerful searchlight sweeping back and forth across the sky.
Yeah.
EC radar is more like having thousands of tiny, individually steerable searchlights.
Wow.
So they can instantly focus beams in multiple directions, track lots of targets simultaneously, and they're much harder for an enemy to detect or jam. It's a big leap. And this advanced radar is paired with weapons like TIMES.
Yes.
You mentioned the PL-15 missile? Yes, the PL-15 Beyond Visual Range Air-to-Air Missile. It's considered very potent. Beyond visual range, so it can hit something the pilot can't actually see yet.
Exactly. It can engage targets many, many miles away, often guided by data from other sensors, maybe ground radar or other aircraft. The PL-15 is particularly highlighted for its speed, reportedly reaching Mach 5.
Mach 5.
And its long range. It's aided by a dual-pulse rocket motor, which means it can essentially fire twice, giving it more energy for that final intercept, even at long distances.
So clearly a capable, pretty modern aircraft with advanced systems. Where does it fit in the global market right now? Is China selling it widely?
Well, the J-10CE is the export variant, and as of now, Pakistan is the only confirmed international buyer.
Just Pakistan.
For the J-10CE, yes, currently. However, other countries like Egypt and Bangladesh have acquired or shown interest in other Chinese aircraft. And interestingly, Egypt recently hosted joint military exercises that actually included J-10Cs. So it suggests China is actively marketing it.
Right, trying to showcase it. Okay, so we have the context of the conflict. We know a bit more about the J-10C and its capabilities, and we have these really bold claims of victory marked right there on the jets. Let's try and examine those claims more closely.
Yeah, the Chinese and Pakistani narrative is definitely that the J-10C performed exceptionally well, demonstrated its own prowess and the effectiveness of its weapons, like that PL-15 missile we talked about.
Chinese media, experts, they really promoted this, didn't they?
Yeah.
Framing it as the J-10C's first real combat success.
Absolutely. And the focus was often on its ability to, quote, detect first, track first, strike first, thanks to those advanced systems, the AESA radar, the PL-15.
I've also seen some analysis suggesting that maybe attributing the success solely to the J-10C itself might be missing a bigger picture.
Ah, you mean the system of systems argument.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Some experts propose that the actual key factor might not be the individual J-10C jet being inherently superior in, say, a one-on-one dogfight against a Rafale.
Right. What's really interesting there is the argument that the success, if confirmed, could be more about the effectiveness of the entire kill chain.
The kill chain. Explain that a bit.
Think of it like a really well-coordinated relay race, but for information. Ground radars might first spot potential threats. Then airborne early warning and control aircraft, AEW&C planes, basically flying command posts with powerful sensors, track them and pass precise targeting data. And then the fighter jet, like the J-10C, gets the command and fires its missile.
So it's the seamless integration of all those parts.
Exactly. It's the whole system working together smoothly that gets the result.
So it's less about the raw capability of the jet itself in isolation, and maybe more about how well it's networked and guided by these other assets.
Precisely. And an important point some analysts make here is that because Pakistan's Air Force primarily uses equipment sourced from China.
Right, the J-10s, radars, AEW&C.
Exactly. Those systems might just be much better integrated. They might talk to each other more effectively, almost natively.
Okay.
This contrasts with India's situation, where they have a very diverse mix of systems, Western, Russian, Israeli, Indian-made.
Yeah, integrating all of that must be a challenge.
It can be a huge challenge, achieving that seamless real-time data sharing across platforms from totally different origins.
That makes a lot of sense, like a team of slightly less capable runners who pass the baton perfectly might actually win against a team of faster runners who keep fumbling the handoffs.
That's actually a really good analogy. And of course, we absolutely have to acknowledge the fog of war point again.
Right, we don't know the specifics.
Exactly. Experts are really careful to note that we just lack the specific details of these aerial encounters. For instance, was the Indian jet actively maneuvering, fighting back, or was it perhaps caught off guard, or maybe even withdrawing?
Had it already used its weapons?
Yeah.
Things like that.
Precisely. Without knowing those crucial specifics, it's incredibly difficult, really impossible, to make definitive, verifiable statements about the inherent superiority of one aircraft type over another, just based on the outcome of few engagements.
And this, I think, leads us directly into what feels like a massive component of this whole story, the propaganda dimension.
Oh, absolutely.
Those kill marks, the subsequent media hype. It's clearly tied into China's broader use of military propaganda, isn't it?
Without a doubt, the People's Liberation Army, the PLA, has long used propaganda as a strategic tool.
Yeah.
Its goals are pretty multifaceted. You've got boosting domestic morale, which is vital for recruitment.
Especially targeting younger people, I hear.
Yes, particularly targeting younger generations through all sorts of media animation, games, short videos, and yes, even podcasts and audiobooks these days.
Wow, using podcasts for military recruitment. That really shows how they're adapting.
They definitely are. But beyond just domestic support, the propaganda aims to garner public backing and, maybe crucially, to intimidate potential adversaries. One source I saw described it as aiming to make the enemy surrender without fighting.
So this conflict, even if the actual details are murky, provided a perfect real-world opportunity for a kind of big advertisement for China's defense industry.
Exactly. Some analysts even called it a deep-seek moment for Chinese weaponry.
Deep-seek moment.
Yeah, referencing that time when a relatively unknown Chinese AI firm suddenly challenged leading Western tech giants. It's about demonstrating that Chinese military tech isn't just theoretical, that it can actually perform in real combat scenarios, or at least appear to.
And it wasn't just official state media pushing this narrative, right?
Not at all. Nationalist media and social media platforms in China amplified Pakistan's claims significantly. You mentioned seeing that Pakistan's thanks to China was even trending on platforms like Weibo.
Yeah, I did see reports about that.
Well, that kind of amplification serves a very clear strategic purpose. For China, Pakistan is much more than just a defense customer. It's a vital strategic and economic partner, especially with projects like the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor or CPEC.
Right. So supporting Pakistan's narrative reinforces that whole partnership.
Exactly. And the narrative shaping can get pretty elaborate, can it? Like the circulation of that completely fake CNN graphic that claimed massive Indian aircraft losses versus minimal Pakistani losses.
Oh, yeah, I saw that fake graphic. It just illustrates how quickly disinformation can spread and be deliberately used to influence perception.
It's a powerful weapon in this information war. There's even been some more, let's say, speculative discussion circulating online.
Oh, about what?
About the possibility, and I stress possibility, of Chinese military exports potentially containing things like remote control or kill switch software.
Wow, really? Like China could disable jets they sell?
Well, it raises questions for buyer nations about technological dependency. But it's really important to note here, the actual existence and, frankly, the feasibility of such a feature are heavily debated. It remains an unproven point circulating mainly in online discussions, not a verified fact.
Okay, good clarification. So, circling back to India's actions, after admitting some initial losses, did their response just sort of end there?
Not according to General Chauhan. He mentioned that India rectified tactics after those initial aerial losses, and importantly, he stated that India subsequently conducted strikes deep inside Pakistan on May 10th.
Deep inside Pakistan?
Yes, targeting 11 air bases. He specifically stated these strikes were conducted with impunity using various aircraft and ordnance.
11 air bases. Wow.
Yeah, and some experts have noted that this pretty extensive operation actually went relatively underreported compared to the intense focus on the downed jets earlier.
That detail, hitting 11 air bases deep inside Pakistan, that's quite significant. It suggests India wasn't just reacting defensively after those initial engagements.
It really underscores the complexity of modern conflict, doesn't it? What do these events, these competing claims, and all the different narratives really tell us about air combat today and also about the accompanying information warfare?
Well, it certainly highlights the immense challenge in verifying claims, especially in the heat of conflict, and distinguishing the combat reality from the strategic messaging that's so carefully crafted to influence perception, both at home and abroad.
And for the global arms market, you can bet China is absolutely leveraging this moment. They're actively promoting the J-10C as combat tested, potentially cost competitive.
An alternative to established Western fighters like the F-16, the Eurofighter Typhoon, and even the Rafale itself, the jet, featured in those kill marks.
They clearly see an opportunity here to boost their defense exports and maybe challenge the dominance of traditional Western suppliers in this very lucrative space.
Okay, so to quickly sum things up then, we've seen how recent hostilities between India and Pakistan unexpectedly put this major spotlight on China's J-10C fighter jet.
And we looked at the bold claims of aerial success, symbolized by those painted kill marks, but also the really complex reality of actually verifying those claims in the fog of war.
And we talked about how the effectiveness might be attributed less to the individual jet's raw capability in isolation and maybe more to the integrated systems, that whole kill chain concept, especially when operating with compatible equipment, like Pakistan does with its mostly China-sourced platforms.
Right, and plus we explored the undeniable, really significant role of propaganda and narrative shaping in modern military competition. China actively used this conflict to promote its defense industry and achieve broader strategic communication goals.
It's just a compelling illustration, isn't it, of how modern warfare isn't just fought on the physical battlefield anymore, but it's deeply, deeply intertwined with the information space.
Absolutely. It changes how we have to understand these events.
Definitely. So if you found exploring this topic with us interesting, please do consider liking this episode, subscribing to the Daily Download if you haven't already, and maybe leaving us a comment. Your engagement really does help us reach more curious minds like yours.
Yeah, we appreciate it. And maybe here's a thought to leave you with. In an era where information can literally spread around the globe faster than any aircraft can possibly fly, could a carefully constructed story about military performance actually hold as much strategic power as the physical performance itself?
How do you think about navigating these competing narratives in the world today?
Something important to consider.
It really is. We'll be here next time to unpack another complex topic on the Daily Download.